Wake up, baby, all the stars are shining bright. Yeah, we should stay up so that we can look at them all night.
Welcome back to the Crochet Crowd with my friends over at yarnspirations.com. I'm your host Mikey. Today's the Calming Comfort Afghan. This is the gauge swatch check. So if you are substituting your yarn, remember that all of our hands are different, so that the way that we crochet, everybody has a different tension. So in order to match Jeanne's tension, we need to have a gauge of 12 double crochets in 7 rows. So what we need to do is create a gauge and check that first. And the reason why we want to do that is that these afghans that generate from the center grow outward. So you see people on social media complaining that their blanket is buckling or it's ruffling up. Chances are most of the people that did that or having that issue never did a gauge check to make sure that it was gonna work. So you want to check your gauge and you want to change your hook in order to match the gauge. So let's take a look at what this gauge is and how we're going to adjust. So what gauge is, it's a 4" by 4" square. And what this gauge is telling us is that we need to have 12 double crochet in between the span of 4 inches, like that, and then we have to have approximately 7 rows in the height between here. So in order to match what Jeanne did, what we do as designers is that we crochet something and then we take a gauge swatch so that you at home can match it. So for example, let's talk about what happens if you do a swatch and there's different information. Let's talk about that next. So the scenario is that if you do a swatch and you're using your 5.5mm size I crochet hook and you get exactly what it's suggesting of the 12 double crochets by 7 rows, then you know your gauge is right and you can proceed right to your project. If you do the swatch and for example say you had 14 double crochets instead of 12, it means that there's too many stitches that are appearing in between the 4" span. Therefore the stitch work is smaller than what Jeanne's version is. In order to change it, you need to increase your hook. What size hook to change to is usually a step up, maybe once or twice depending on your tension on how much you get. So when I do a gauge swatch, you're going to notice that I create extra stitches so I can see approximately how many stitches it would be short by or how many there is too many. If for example you ended up with 10 double crochets instead of 12, that means that your stitch work is a lot bigger than what Jeanne's example was, so you need to decrease your hook. And what size you decrease to, again, is a guess. So people do message me and says, here's my gauge, what do I need to do in order to get it to reduce? The only solution is that for you to try that for yourself and reduce your hook and begin all over again. So this is what we want to do. So you always want to make an adjustment. Now for myself, if the yarn is a thicker yarn like Bernat blanket or any kind of yarns in the chunky or super bulky levels there, I'm always a tight crocheter, so I have to significantly increase my hook in order to get to the tension that is required in the patterns. So not all yarn is equal on how we hold the yarn or how we use it. And for example, the way that Daniel crochets is that he would have to significantly increase his hook size, maybe to a 6.5, maybe even to an 8mm, because he is so incredibly tight on the way that he crochets. So in order for everybody to adjust, they need to customize it for themselves. Let's create a gauge swatch and let's determine how that's gonna work. So using the yarn that you would like to use, start with Jeanne's recommended size of 5.5mm size I and create a slip knot and put it onto the hook. Now here's the thing. We want to know how many stitches that we are gonna have extra or is just kind of just there. So what I want to do is that I want to create a swatch that has more than her suggested of 12 double crochets, so I can physically see what's going to happen with that. So because it's double crochet this time, I would crochet and start with the chain 20. So let's begin that. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 and 20. Now because this is the beginning chain, I want to go 3rd chain from the hook and I want to start double crocheting across the chain itself. So you just come back and double crochet across your chain, and I'll meet you at the end of the chain in a moment. I'm coming up to the end of the row. Okay, so what I want to do is go right into the very last one, and I want to turn my work and begin. So I want to create enough of these rows that I can be able to measure a 4-inch span. So what I'm going to do is just continually go back and forth. So when you start up a new row, just chain up 3 to begin. That's your first double crochet in this case. So you'll start right here and you'll double crochet back across. So what I want you to do is come all the way and continue to go back and forth in the rows until you end up with a swatch that looks pretty much to square. So I've already done my advanced homework. So please go back and forth, and then I'm gonna show you how to measure this to check your gauge. So here's my swatch. You don't have to waste this yarn. You can just frog it out, which means to rip it. And what you want to do is take your tape measure and you want to measure how many stitches will appear in a 4-inch span. So for myself, I'm sitting actually right here, so I'm looking at it from an angle. So if it looks wrong to you, the way that I'm counting, it could just be where I'm sitting here. So I want to measure how many stitches appear between the 0 here and 4 inches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So I have 12 stitches between the 0 and 4 inches. This means that there's the number of stitches that appear between the 4 inches is correct. So if I ended up with 14 double crochets between 0 and 4, it means that I am too tight in my stitch work and I'll need to increase my hook. If you ended up with something like 10 double crochets appear here, that means that there's not enough, so you'd have to decrease your hook. So those are just rough guesses. So then you can just take a look and turn it sideways and count how many rows there are, and I can count that. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So this means that Jeannie's hook and my tension actually matches each other. So if your hook is not matching the tension, then what happens is that you have to change that in order to make it work. So what I want you to do is get your gauge set, and then you can get ready then to begin with this pattern as we continue into the journey on the first week when that begins coming up really soon. So your gauge should be 12 double crochets and 7 rows, and you can use any yarn that you wish, and this is going to be a great time. This is the Calming Comfort Afghan designed by Jeannie. We'll see you again real soon. Bye bye.